Hey, Nick.
Let's see. That's not what I want. There we go. Stream manager's up. Okay, welcome to the GamerSeuss Twitch channel where we've got game time once again with myself, Lurch, and Greg Pullman. Let's get up. See my Facebook on the main screen. You don't need to see that. All right. We're just getting everything set up for the show. We're just a couple minutes late for those tuning in. Also, as a quick apology, I have not moved last week's show over to YouTube. The recent breach in security between, it was either Twitch or YouTube, has made it to where right now their export feature is not working between the two. They won't let the two services link up properly. So I've not had a chance to export the old show over. And I've not had the time to manually do it. But hopefully they'll be getting that fixed soon. Anyway, we are Eclectic Endeavors. We put on such events as the Gaming Arts Media Entertainment Expo, the Picnic at the End of the Universe, and board game night at a Holdfast Brewing Company in cooperation with Holdfast. And you can actually find Greg Pullman there the third Wednesday of every month, except this month because he's going to a wedding. But they'll still be there. It's the 417 Gamer group should be hosting there, the board game group this time in our place. But every month you can go out there and play board games, learn some fast casual games, kind of dip your toes into the waters, play puzzle battles, which is where they give a puzzle to each team and they race to see who can put the puzzle together the fastest, and enjoy some good microbrews and some great food. So go on out there and check that out. I am the director of cross promotions and the panel director for Eclectic Endeavors. Right below me, we have Philip Lendergan, who is our co-chair and also director of electronic gaming at the convention. And below him, we have Greg Pullman, who is our director of tabletop gaming, as well as kind of our website guy right now. He keeps up the website presence and, of course, host over at Holdfast. Every week we come here from 8 to 10 o'clock Wednesdays to talk about everything and anything in the nerdosphere, and we're going to get going here just as soon as we can do a quick sound check. So let me go in and do that. Check 1 2, check 1 2. Check 1 2, check 1 2. Check 1 2.
Check 1 2.
Check 1 2.
Check 1.
Okay. Sounds like it's working fine, guys. All right. We've got a few things. Yeah. It was a little bit rough getting started this week. I think a lot of us are like Dragon. Nice rain outside and stuff, so that's not a problem, but it just is one of those things. I think we're getting close to the end of the year. In the normal scheme of things, we would be preparing for game this month because October is a typical month to do it, but of course, COVID is still alive and active, so...
This last weekend would have probably have been when it would have happened.
Yeah.
This last weekend or this upcoming weekend, one or the other.
More than likely, yeah. As you can see on the screen, though, we do have the dates for next year. The 14th, 15th, and 16th of October, we will be doing our convention. And we will, of course, be at the Springfield Expo Center, where we've been for pretty much most of our existence, if not all of our existence.
All of these, we've always, all of our expos have been at the Expo Center, yeah.
I started at year 4, so I wasn't absolutely sure if 1, 2, and 3 had been anywhere else.
Sometimes the space of the Expo Center we rented varied a little bit early on, but it was still the Expo Center.
Okay, good. And we will, of course, have several of your favorite things still at the convention. We will not have everything offered. We normally offer, partly because a lot of staff have moved on and we don't have people to run all the different items. If you are interested in running something that we don't have somebody running right now, though, make sure to try to go to one of our open meetings and volunteer to run it. Examples is we need somebody to run a costume contest, or we won't be having the costume contest or the art show. And some of us have picked up some extra duties, like I'm doing panels this year. In the past, panels have been done by one of our other members, that's just an example. But if there's something that you really like about game, and you find that it's not on our schedule, hey, let us know if you know somebody that might be interested in jumping in and running that department. It's a completely unpaid position. We don't get paid for anything. This is just a labor of love. But you can come in, and you can also volunteer to be a henchman at the convention, and you'll get yourself a T-shirt and free admittance, and entered into a raffle to win an Amazon gift card and some other great perks just for helping us out. And we can only really put things like this together with the help of the community at large. This is a labor of love.
I don't know if it's just my ears registering it wrong, but what I heard when you said free admittance was free mittens. No,
okay, it wasn't just me.
Well, free. I might have said it so fast. I speak a little fast, especially when we're doing our intro. Try to get that out of the way so that we can go into the meat and potatoes of the show. But yeah, no free mittens this year. Okay.
It gave me a chuckle. It gave me a chuckle. Like, yeah, free mittens. That'll get all the volunteers.
Yeah, no free mittens this year. I'm sorry, but free admittance is this year instead. We decided to go for admittance instead of mittens. But anyway, we're going to jump right into the show. And I believe this time, for once, we've got a lot of stuff from Greg this week. So Greg's going to start us off. And I think I've even got queued up his biggest topic first, which is the Cowboy Bebop RPG. Where'd my mouse disappear to? I hate it when the mouse disappeared. There it is. All right.
Yeah, I didn't see any point in burying the lead this week.
Right? Get right to it.
Yeah, 3 studios are teaming up to, and they're all fairly, I don't want to say no-name, that sounds insulting, but I don't think any of them have done anything super high profile, but they're collaborating on a Cowboy Bebop RPG. The most prominent group of the 3 appears to be, Sunrise. Sunrise Studios is planning on launching the Kickstarter sometime next year. And it's been an interesting year or two for licensed tabletop RPGs. I'm wondering if there's going to be a bubble in the market, but I guess only time will tell. In the meantime, it is a licensed product. They've already got a cover image mock-up on the Dicebreaker article. And the closest that anybody has come to attempting this before is apparently an indie RPG called Orbital Blues that I had a brief look at. There's no indication of what mechanics they're going to use, and I'm not familiar with any of the studio's other projects. One of them, Mana Project Studios, I believe only has one other kickstarted RPG prior to this, so there's very sparse on the details. We don't have much more than a teaser trailer at this point, although, where is it? One of the 3 studios, an Italian studio called Fumble GDR, already has a Kickstarter up for a different project called Knights of the Round Academy that is an anime-esque cross between Sailor Moon, Gundam, and and My Hero Academia that's set in a Arthurian Britain inspired world, and their system looks to be Cortex inspired, which is basically different sized die, D8s being the average, and your dice step up in size or step down depending on traits that are invoked. So if you have a special ability that would make you better at a certain task, your D8 might step up to a D12, or if it's the opposite, it might step down from a D8 to a D6, affecting the range of numbers that are available to you. I'm wondering if that's going to have anything to do with how Cowboy Bebop plays out, in which case, digging into the musical, the jazz theme, I'm wondering how they're going to tie that together and emphasize the controlled chaos of jazz music and the
Anime
highly
action.
theatrical
Anime action, yeah.
That kind of like I think we discussed. Yeah, I think a little bit like we discussed when we talked about the live action
Right.
Cowboy Bebop a little while ago, and how it might be easier to adapt live action for this, since it's not over the top shonen anime like a lot of popular franchises.
Yeah, it's not something like Last Airbender or Dragon Ball Z, where there's a lot of like Hitokins and things like that they have to adapt for.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not going Super Saiyan on the screen.
But but it's an ambitious project, and again, the studios are not high profile. We're not dealing with WotC or Fantasy Flight or Magpie
or Games Workshop or any of those.
Yeah, but the Tech Raptor article looks like they talked to some of the people who are involved in the project, and they are passionate about it. This isn't somebody trying to cash a check. It sounds like these people are as dedicated to the integrity of this project as the Blade Runner people are to getting theirs right.
That's always nice to hear.
More news on that as it comes.
Good.
Yeah, it's nice to hear because certain products are considered almost certain IPs, especially in the nerd community,
sacrosanct.
Are sacrosanct. That's exactly the word I was going to use. They're sacred. They're sacrosanct, and you don't mess with them. And it would be like trying to do, the original Labyrinth. You had to do it right. If you wanted to do what's Dark Crystal, you'd have to do it right. Princess Bride, you got to do it right. You can't mess with certain products because they're considered cornerstones of our nerd community.
Yeah, one of the studios, Don't Panic Games, has also worked on adaptations for Naruto and Attack on Titan, and they worked with Sunrise, another one of the three groups that is working on Cowboy Bebop, to do a Cowboy Bebop deck-building card game called Space Serenade. So some of these people have worked together before on this very IP. So that's
cool.
That's also another.
I've seen some products from Don't Panic. I just can't think of what. So because I recognize the name and not just as a reference to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. But I can't think of what product they were on last time I saw them, but they usually do okay with what they do work on. It's just they're really, really a small niche company.
Yeah. The only other project that Fumble GDR has that I can tell is another RPG called Not the End.
Ooh. That inspires certain.
I've never heard of that title before.
No, but the name inspires some thought, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, the cover art looks like a person rising out of a crowd of smaller people, and there's a fire coming out of their chest. It's almost Phoenix.
Phoenix, yeah. Kind of thinks like, Phoenix. I mean, obviously not the same as like Phoenix Dawn Command, but very Phoenix-esque. Speaking of images and stuff, this cover image here that's on the screen, the reds and blues really pop out. I mean, this is a great cover
Yeah,
art.
it's a good design.
It is great cover art. The way they use the color, it's very clean. It's not all blurry.
Don't Panic Games. I've got.
Go ahead.
Yep. I've got Don't Panic Games pulled up. When they're not doing IP-based games like Naruto, it looks very playful, almost tongue-in-cheek kind of stuff. Like Don't Drop the Soap, Death Row, or Don't Wake Up Cthulhu.
I've seen Don't Wake Up Cthulhu before. That's probably one of the ones I'm remembering. Pretty much anything with Cthulhu on the title, I at least check out. I'm a big Cthulhu fan.
Don't Panic Games.
Yeah.
What was that one? The Last Doge?
The Last Doge?
The Last Doge.
The Last Doge. Exploration, guessing, and hand management in post-apocalyptic Venice.
Ooh.
Okay, so not like Dogecoin Doge, but something else.
Still, sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Post-apocalyptic
stuff to look
Venice? Wow. Yeah. The things we come up with. Humans are very...
Oh, they even have... They even have Cowboy Bebop playmats.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's about it for that topic. That was your.
Yeah.
This is your big long one, and yeah, there's a lot to go on that there, and looking forward to see where they go with it in the future. Let's hop on over to our next topic of discussion. Let's see. Here, Mousy, where did you go? My mouse pointer keeps disappearing on me. Here we go. Next is PlayStation Plus members. Okay, go for it, Lurch.
All right, so this is going to be a short one, but it's been revealed that in November, I'll start off. Typically, each month, PlayStation Plus members get 3 free games. 2 PS4 games and a PS5 game. But November will mark the 5-year anniversary of PlayStation VR. So, in addition to the 3 free games that we would get already, they're also throwing in 3 free PlayStation VR games this upcoming month for a total of 6 free PS Plus games. Which titles we're getting hasn't been revealed yet, but we're going to be getting 6 games, 2 PS4 games, a PS5 game, and then 3 PSVR games. That's pretty exciting to me.
So to those who have a VR system, that's great news.
Yeah. And even if you don't have a VR system today, still scoop up these VR games while they're free. So, later on you can play them on the VR2, the PSVR 2 or whatever they title it.
Because you put them in your library.
Get the regular PSVR.
Because if you grab them once they're in your library, they're yours.
So, yep.
As long as the library
So you'll
exists.
be set. And, as long as you have a PlayStation Plus membership. I've never let mine expire. I know...
And as
I
long
believe
as they keep
even
the
if you let
service
it expire, if you renew your membership, you get... So I don't think you have to consistently keep the service.
No,
I think if your service expires, you can renew your service and reacquire all, and then go back to having all your PS Plus games again.
If it's in your library, you can still use it even if your service is lapsed. You just can't download. You can't get any of the
No, it becomes unplayable. It'll become unplayable while your service is lapsed.
Only if they've got online features. Because if you happen to get
they're supposed to check in online.
If it doesn't have an online feature, then it'll still run for you because basically you're supposed to get that game for being a PlayStation, not just use of the game, put that game in your library. It's just that you also get the access to the internet features of that game through the PlayStation Plus. So if you let your Plus lapse, you lose the internet features, and if it requires internet features to run, you're out of luck.
By design, they stop working if you don't have an active Plus member, but they don't all game. Not all games like I don't think check in at the same pace or whatever. So if you're like disconnected from your network, you could still play it for like a month or something until it reaches a certain threshold, and then it'll stop working. But it'll start working again once you renew your membership. Anyway, so yeah, that's all I had to say. 6 free games coming out November for the PS Plus memberships. 3 of them being for VR to celebrate the 5 years of PlayStation VR's release. And I'm a big fan of VR games, PlayStation VR, and others. So
I still haven't had a chance to
if
try
you don't
one
have a
out
VR,
yet.
I recommend keep an eye out for it.
I wanted
What's
to
that?
try one. I wanted to try one of yours at game, but there's always such a line for the VR systems, and I feel bad as one of the people running the show. I don't want to take up a slot that one of our attendees can take.
Yeah, the VR is really popular at game. Like last year I had 2 VR systems running, or not last year, last game, which was 2019 now. The last game I had 2 systems set up of PlayStation VR, and they were still like in constant use the whole weekend. Both of them running.
Yeah.
I've got an Oculus Quest 2 now, so maybe I can help alleviate some of that.
Yeah.
Nice.
They didn't drop any of the titles, did they? For next month?
They did not they did not reveal what titles will be coming out next month for free. Just the number of games.
Right.
Okay.
So it's breaking information that came out today. So we'll have, a couple of weeks, and we'll have the names of the titles, I'm sure.
Now, speaking of the Oculus 2, that's the Amazon VR system, right? The one that's linked
It's
to
the
Amazon?
Facebook one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Facebook and Amazon one?
Facebook.
Oh, because I wanted to know
Facebook.
Just Facebook.
Oh, because I wanted to know if they had any support for it on New World. But if it's not Amazon's, then they probably wouldn't. Okay. I just was going to check.
I don't know. Amazon published the New World game. I don't know what all platforms they have it on. It wasn't a game that interested me personally, so I haven't looked into all of its options. But if they put it on the Oculus Store, then it's playable. Or if it's on other stores, if it's on non-Oculus stores, you can still play it. If it's on a PlayStation, or no, not PlayStation. If it's on a PC VR, you can hook up your Oculus Quest 2 to your PC and play any PC VR games. Almost, you can play almost any PC VR game. I think there's a few limitations, but almost any of them. So I play Steam VR games on my Quest almost as much as I play just the Oculus Store games.
Okay. Well, I know I want to try one of the Oculus, and I know New World is one of the MMOs that's supposed to be built with an eye towards VR usage as well. So not that it's a full VR game, but it's supposed to be with an eye to it, as in it's VR compatible or something. So I don't know. I have not played any of the New World. I didn't get in on their beta. I was too busy with my Fractured beta or alpha to even worry about New World. Too many games, not enough time. Okay, well, go on to the next topic, and that should be mine. Okay, we've talked quite a bit about Kickstarters here on the show, and of course we've mentioned Critical Role on numerous occasions as well. One of the Kickstarters that happened a couple of years ago broke all the records was the Legend of Vox Machina animated show that they were doing a Kickstarter to try to do just a couple episodes of an animated for the original first campaign of Critical Role. And they made so much on the Kickstarter and the stretch goals and stuff that it stretched from being just a couple episodes to ending up being 2 confirmed full seasons of this animated show with Titmouse doing the animation and everything, and the Critical Role actors, voice actors, actually voicing all their own characters. Just recently announced at New York Comic Con 2021, the release date for the Vox Machina animated series has come out. And of course, earlier we'd also found that Amazon picked up the series, so it's actually going to be on Amazon Prime. So if you're an Amazon Prime member, whether you've backed the Kickstarter or not, you'll have access to the cartoon series. And the release date is February 4th of 2022, so it's right around the corner. And not only have they released a title sequence for the series, they've also released a scene that's side by side with the voice actors voicing their roles. So you see the scene on the left side, and you'll see the group of the voice actors together, and it'll focus in on the one that's actually talking, and you see them talking their roles. So it's a really nice little thing, especially if you're like me and into voice acting and voices and stuff. A lot of our theater nerds would love that part, and video game nerd too, because voiceover is a big part of modern video game action. So I wanted to point out that they had both of these things coming out through those who did do the Kickstarter, which that was my Kickstarter that year. I backed it for $20, and I don't know what the legalities are for playing the videos on it, so I'm not going to play it here. But if you go to either critroll.com or YouTube and look it up, you want the Legend of Vox Machina official opening title sequence, and then there's another excerpt that's not on this article, but you can also find it if you just look up Legend of Vox Machina and see what comes up. There's also several videos on the making of that have gone out through the couple of years that they've been working on it and everything. Some interviews with the people at Titmouse who are doing the actual animation, with Sam Riegel and Travis Willingham and Matt Mercer and all of them, Talais and Jaffe. So look for that if you're really interested in Critical Role. And as a lot of Dungeons and Dragons players especially have realized, the huge heyday that is D&D in 5th edition, a big part of that can be directly tracked back to Critical Role and Acquisitions Incorporated and other streamed Dungeons and Dragons shows, but Critical Role is probably the biggest. And Critical Role has had guests on it like Vin Diesel and Patton Oswalt. You know, there have been some great guests that have done spots on the show. You know, 1 or 2 episode spots or little one shots and everything through them. And of course, Matt Mercer is often what newer players expect their DM to be, and of course that in itself can be a little bit of a negative because not everybody can be Matt Mercer, and it's not because he's necessarily the be all and end all of DMs. He's a great DM, don't get me wrong, but he also has the advantage of an entire crew behind him that helps set up his scenery and paint his miniatures, and
funding helps.
Yeah, funding
and brand deals.
Funding, branding, and crew helps a lot in trying to put something of this together like this on a weekly basis. I mean,
money goes a long way sometimes.
I've been running Dungeons and Dragons for 40-some years. What is it? I was 7 years old, so 43 years now. I've been running Dungeons and Dragons, And I've never had that kind of backing on my weekly games. And I try to put a lot of the stuff like voice acting and bringing in sound effects and props and stuff too, but I just sure don't have the budget that Critical Role has. Not to mention, everybody talks about they want the Matt Mercer level DM, but the DMs never come back and say, well, yeah, when are you going to become Laura Bailey or Travis Willingham as players?
Exactly.
They're professional voice actors makes a difference. If everybody's into telling a story and everybody's more of a thespian than just a casual gamer,
Oh, man.
you're going to get a more intense gaming experience. It's just going to be the whole thing.
One of my best gaming experiences when I was playing Archer, the board game Archer, with a group of actors that were big fans of the show. And so most of the people I was playing with were in character as they're playing the board game. It was fantastic. They were making all kinds of references and everything to the classic lines from the show and stuff.
I couldn't stand Archer, so
and you don't have to be you don't have to be a pro actor even. Just watching them perform, there's little things you can pick up. Like I watched the first episode of Exandria, and while I was watching it, I found myself actually getting angry at how good at how well they communicated. Like the GM will address a specific player, and everybody else will shut up and listen and let that person do their thing, and then the GM will wait until they're done before responding and building on the moment, and it's just like,
the cooperation there. You're like, why can't I transplant that to my game? Just the cooperation. I just want that.
Instead of a bunch of nerds dogpiling over each other to make Monty Python references or whatever.
Exactly. And that is
it's thing. Not always that, but you know the things.
Yeah, it's going to be Princess Bride and Monty Python and Spaceballs and whatever is going to, and it's going to derail your game.
I played a game once where the DM had a no Monty Python references rule where anytime you made a Monty Python reference, like your next saving throw, he would give you like a -3 or something on it.
I have a game called Ryutama. There's a variant rule in the book that allows the GM to deal 1 hit point of damage to any player that makes a reference or catchphrase or anything that is not grounded in the world.
So any alternative media catchphrase or reference or meme. That's not exactly a bad rule.
If it's legit the character's catchphrase, or if they're doing something, if they're referencing a play that they saw in the world, cool. But if they do a MASH reference or something, then lightning bolt.
Right. Well, but like
that's a little harsh for me, but I've considered it.
Like a lot of advice you'll get online, because people often forget that D&D is, yes, it's a game, and some people take it extremely seriously. I'm one of them. But it is also a social activity, and you'll find people like Matt Koval and Matt Mercer and Satine Phoenix will give you the advice that, remember, this is a social game, which means you have to allow for some time at the beginning of your group get-together for people to get some of that stuff out of their system, and allow them to do it. Just don't have them derail your game. The occasional reference is fine. Everybody laughs, brings up the mood of the table. Then if you jump right back in after a single reference, is fine. But if one reference leads to a cascade of references, you as the DM have to grab a hold and stop this and say, okay, look, love it, love the energy, love the stuff, but can we save it for a break?
Yeah.
And that's the thing, because you do want to let them socialize, because that's part and parcel of why we get together around a table to play. We want to socialize with our friends and interact and do a social activity. But we also want to play the game we're here to play. And you got to strike a balance there.
I introduced one NPC named Harry, and the last 10 minutes has been nothing but Harry Potter, Harry Dresden, and Dirty Harry references. Can we please move on?
And then Harry the giant invisible rabbit. Yes. Yeah, exactly. But that's the thing. You have to manage your group in such a way, and I hate to use the word manage because people feel like they're being manipulated when they're managed. But you kind of have to not necessarily railroad or anything, but you want to keep control enough of the group to where they stay on topic.
Yeah, and you are the game master. They're looking to you to kind of moderate things. In fact, I've always kind of preferred game moderator as opposed to game master, because one has very overlord connotations and the other one is very supervisory.
I always like the referee term, the generic, you're the referee, they're the players. Because as a referee, you're there to just make sure everything is done in a fair and even manner and keep things moving. You're not there to Gestapo Heil Hitler the whole table. That's not your job. Your job is not to write the story yourself. Your job is to set the scene and let a bunch of improv actors loose on the scene and see what chaos unfolds. You know?
Yeah.
And that's when the magic happens in a role-playing game. Hey, what's up, Legacy? EC Legacy is... what are you guys' thoughts on the upcoming Halloween movie? Well, to me, I'm not a big Halloween fan. I love the horror genre movies, but there's not a lot of the slashers that I'm really big into. Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees and Leatherface are just not my big ones. So I don't have a big super interest in them. I watched all of them, but I'm not really interested in seeing Jamie Lee Curtis in yet another Scream flick, which is really all it seems like to me.
Slashers have always kind of bored me. I saw the original Halloween and I wasn't impressed. And I generally love John Carpenter movies.
Yeah, John Carpenter's great.
I'm anticipating... Yeah. I'm anticipating Michael Myers shows up and stabs somebody, and then later on he stabs somebody else, and then later on he stabs somebody else.
Well, then there was the one Halloween movie that had nothing to do with Myers at all, which had to do with those haunted masks that took over the children.
That'd be Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
Yep. And that was my favorite, really.
I'm personally, I'm a big fan of slasher flicks. I just watched the newest Child's Play movie last night.
Oh, it's good.
Chucky doll. But this one, it's like the reboot where it's a robotic toy instead of demonically possessed by a gangster or whatever from the old ones. And it works. It works actually. I know there's a lot of purists that would be offended by the change, but it works really well as a film. I think having this artificial intelligence toy that goes haywire and becomes murderous.
Yeah, I'm a huge Chucky fan. In fact, the Chucky TV series premieres on Halloween.
Yeah,
on, USA and Sci-Fi.
Yeah, I don't know when I'll be able to watch it. I'll have to watch it if they put it on like Hulu or Netflix or something.
You'd have to have, I think it's Peacock.
I'm glad they're doing that.
I think it's Peacock that you can watch it streaming. Or in my case, I can use my...
Legacy is saying it's on USA Network.
Yeah, USA and Sci-Fi.
On the chat.
Yeah, it's...
yeah, so...
one of the, and my saving grace, I think...
I saw the Chucky movie. What?
I can watch it because I can go onto my VPN and set myself to New Zealand and then go to New Zealand network. And they'll run it because they run a lot of the stuff that's on like CW and USA and stuff in New Zealand on that same channel, so it becomes stream on demand there. So I can that's how I watched Resident Alien, because I didn't have the Sci-Fi channel.
So what I was trying to say is I'm a huge fan of slasher films. I love the Friday the 13th movies, Jason Voorhees and the Robert Englund, Freddy Krueger, Nightmare on Elm Street films, things like that. I'm really kind of hit or miss on Halloween movies. Some of them I like a lot, some of them I don't care for when it comes to Halloween. So I don't know, each time a new Halloween movie comes out, I don't know if I'm going to like it or not.
But you give it a try.
Yeah, I'm going to watch it. I don't know if I'm going to watch it in theaters. I might wait until it's available on Vudu or something. I haven't decided.
Yeah,
we'll see.
If it comes on one of our streaming services, I'll watch it that way.
I've also sort of lost track of the Halloween timeline because there's been like 3 different reboots, and this new one has Jamie Lee Curtis in again, and I'm pretty sure she died in a previous reboot of the story, and I'm a little bit lost now. And
nobody stays dead in the movies.
I'm
it's not just the bad guys.
I mean, the original movies are really old, right? I had to go back and rewatch them, and later. I don't know. So I'm a little bit lost on the actual timeline
continuity.
And which movie does this one take place after?
I think it's supposed to be after H2O, but I'm not sure.
Does H2O still exist as a movie in this timeline? I don't know. It's the Halloween timeline is more confusing than Terminator. And Terminator is a movie about time travel.
Right. Yeah, see, I'm a good slasher fan, but yeah, neither Halloween nor Friday the 13th were my big ones. I liked Freddy Krueger. I like Chucky. I like Ghostface. I like interesting. I like the guy.
You like the
Phantasm.
ones with more. You like the ones where the killers have some irreverent humor, where they taunt people, right?
I like that. That's one of them. Or I like really good episodes of magic or supernatural elements in it, like a Phantasm or Hellraiser. Those kind of horror movies. But I love it when a possessed doll or possessed toy, like Dollman and the Demonic Toys, I'll watch it all day long. I'll watch that kind of stuff all day. I love Chucky. Chucky is like a god of horror films. Robert Englund is a god, literally. I mean, there is no other Freddy Krueger but Robert Englund. And so, but that put us off topic. So let's go ahead and go on to our next topic. Should be back to Greg. And Call of Cthulhu. Speaking of horror.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice
segue. Subject transition there.
Nice segue.
Rolling right along. Yeah, there were a few Halloween/horror themed articles. I had to pick one. But this one looks like a good one. Chaosium and Peterson Games have announced Call of Cthulhu Terror Paths, a co-op board game set in the Call of Cthulhu universe. This is bringing back Sandy Peterson, the original creator of the Call of Cthulhu TTRPG, which is, to this day, one of the most popular tabletop RPGs of all time. And it's in, I think it's 7th edition now.
It is the
that
number one...
art you just pulled up looks like some classic Steve Ditko art.
It could be.
Yeah, it keeps running articles for other...
Was that like an ad for something else? Okay.
Yeah,
it was an ad for another article. I don't know why they're mixed up.
Interesting trivia.
Sorry.
Call of Cthulhu is the number one selling RPG in Japan. It outsells even 4th edition D&D.
They like their tentacles.
They love tentacle porn. That's all I got to say. No, Call of Cthulhu is the number one And it's partly because the majority of RPG players in Japan actually happen to be women, and women gravitate more towards the psychological aspects of Call of Cthulhu over the straight hack and slashy elements of things like Dungeons and Dragons. Although Dungeons and Dragons 4th edition is second.
Good to know they have taste.
Yeah.
So Call of Cthulhu is number one though in Japan, which I like. I always think of it because of course I'm a defender of 4th edition Dungeons and Dragons. A lot of people think of it as a failed edition of D&D, but it did just fine. It made as good a numbers as any other edition, except maybe 5th when it came to actually for the core company, not counting all the third parties. And in Japan, they give it its due because they took it as a game and ran with it and didn't worry about like certain nerd foibles that the rest of us get, where we get kind of high bear and want it our way, and that's it. We want you to fix it, but we also don't want you to change the game while you do it.
Yeah.
We say,
Another
fix
fun
this.
bit of trivia from this article, in fact, after leaving the tabletop industry, it says Peterson went on to work on Doom, doing level design for Doom and its sequel. I didn't know that.
The 2016 Doom?
No, back in the original Call of Cthulhu.
80s Doom?
After
90s.
I love Call of
1981, so
81.
early 80s.
Okay, yeah.
The original Call of Cthulhu game.
But that's fun. I love to see.
Go ahead.
It's good thematic overlap, and I like to see cross-pollination between tabletop games and video games. And now that I think about it, and I look at the designs, but the visual design and also the level design of Doom, it kind of makes a lot of sense.
Right. Yeah.
The whole one-man army trying to stop an apocalypse thing.
Yeah.
Another thing that was always great about Call of Cthulhu is the original game book. If you flip to the back of the book, there are a bunch of little cartoon strips. It was like Call of Cthulhu, the only game where the highest level characters were not the ones with the highest strength scores, they were the ones with the fastest movement speeds.
Mm-hmm.
It had these big brawny guys in the back, and in front you had these old guys in wheelchairs zooming ahead as the monsters were trying to get them. And it also had some neat little songs, parody songs. Like it was, "Pardon me, boys, is this the road to Great Cthulhu in the city of slime, where it's night all the time?" And it was great.
I remember last year somebody put out a whole book of Lovecraftian parodies of classic Christmas carols.
Right, and
that
this is
was
the kind of thing. Yeah, that's the whole thing. Chaosium and Cthulhu. Part of it was breaking your sanity. That's part of the game, and what better way to break your sanity than to parody it? Comedy always breaks
with
us down
Christmas
just
carols,
a little
no
bit.
less.
Yeah, and so does Christmas. I mean, there's more evidence of suicide and trouble during Christmas season than any other time of the year. You know, if you want to talk insanity, Christmas and Cthulhu. How much more insane can you get? So yeah, Call of Cthulhu is great. You got anything else on this one?
It's being described. Peterson is describing it as hopefully fast and easy to play, which will be a nice breath of fresh air compared to, not that I don't love it, but Arkham Horror. That game is a brick that takes forever to set up, forever to play, and forever to break down. At least second edition is. So I'm looking forward to something that has that spirit, has that constantly on the edge, trying to survive to the next round, but in a more manageable package. There's no information on specific game mechanics or price, but they're not doing a Kickstarter. This is going to go direct to retail sometime next year.
Well, you know, Cthulhu is famous for not having the fast casual board game adaptations, because like Elder Signs and Arkham Horror and anything that's got the Cthulhu name on it always seems to be long and drawn out, and it's chunky.
Yeah.
for those who like it, it's great. I love those games, but to find a group that's willing to sit down and play for 4 to 6 to 8 hours it's just hard to do.
Sure, and
People,
a good chunk of the horror comes from the resource management, resources also including like hit points and sanity points,
Mhm.
that I'm intrigued to know how they're going to streamline that and keep the tension without making one full round take 15, 20, 30 minutes.
Right. That's the thing, because like I said, board games and Call of Cthulhu have always historically been the long ones. At least when you put Cthulhu in something quick like Munchkin, it's still quick like Munchkin. But whenever they try to do their own board games and stuff, if just to get that feel of Cthulhu, and it's an important part of the Cthulhu mythos, is that Lovecraftian feel. You want that cosmic horror hanging over you. You want to be on the verge of not dying, but the verge of going knucking futs.
Elder Sign did an okay job at being a little bit quicker paced and a smaller setup than Arkham Horror.
Yeah, it was quicker than Arkham Horror.
Yeah.
I'll give you that, but it's still not the quickest game.
It still wasn't quick. Yeah,
it still can take you 2 hours to go through Elder Signs.
Well, I still, it can. But I love, and I think I've mentioned it before on our show, Lovecraft Letter.
Oh yeah, that's another.
But it's Lovecraftian styled.
Right, just like Lovecraft Munchkin or Lovecraft Flux.
Yeah,
Cthulhu Flux.
It's a quick, fast paced game, but with a Lovecraftian twist where characters lose, lose insanity or gain insanity, whatever. They go insane and have insanity effect cards, and so it has a really cool twist to it that adds some more complexity than the regular love letter. That makes it, in my opinion, a much better game. And I love it. I don't like Love Letter. I love Lovecraft Letter. I've played it so many times.
I hear that a lot. People, including myself, who either they think Love Letter is okay, or they just don't like it, but they love Lovecraft Letter. It's just the right balance of complexity and speed. Like, everything you need to know is written on the cards. It goes at a good pace, but it's still got enough depth and weight that it feels you're actually making decisions.
Yeah. Love Letter doesn't have much depth to it. Lovecraft Letter actually adds a layer of depth to it.
And it's because Lovecraft Letter came in later when they could add it, just like when they did the Baldur's Gate adaptation of that other horror game. Betrayal at Baldur's Gate, which was Betrayal on House on the Hill. They added, they streamlined it and made it better.
First time I play Call of Cthulhu, I'm going to need to put that song in the background by Metallica. Metallica has a song called Call of Cthulhu.
Yes.
Yeah, the instrumental piece. They also did The Thing That Should Not Be. They also did All Nightmare Long, which I think was inspired by the Hounds of Tindalos.
Mm-hmm.
Probably.
Now, an interesting thing about Cthulhu and joining
they love it.
Other gaming mechanic IPs. Of course, one of our guests that we've had, in fact, the only guest we've really had twice at Game, Keith Baker, he did a Cthulhu version of his Gloom card game. But also, you may or may not have known that he was the chief designer on the Cthulhu Flux card game. So...
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, Keith Baker.
I do remember that one.
Yeah, I knew he was the designer because I got it for Heather for her birthday that same year that we went to, that we had Keith. That following year in March, because our birthdays are like a couple of days apart. And I got her Cthulhu Flux. And as I was looking through the rule book, I was like, oh, look, design, chief designer and stuff, Keith Baker. I was like, wow. And so... we've had Keith Baker twice at the Gaming Arts Media Entertainment Expo, and he's still by far one of my favorite guests, bar none, that we've had. He's
Speaking
such
of Gloom, did you guys know that there was a Gloom of Thrones adaptation? They did Game of Thrones, but for Gloom.
No, I did not know that, but now I got to find it.
I was in a game shop when I was up in Kansas City, and they had a wall of games that were like this big or smaller, and they had all the editions of Gloom that were available, and I'd never seen that one before. That just caught my eye.
Well, Keith Baker did a lot of playing around with Gloom. Like, for instance, Heather won that special edition of Gloom during that first visit he had with us that had some of the unlicensed Gloom cards because they were from IPs he had not gotten licensing permission from. But it was a personal deck that he had originally built for Will Wheaton's birthday that had the Star Trek and stuff like that in it. And Heather won that off of him during that weekend. Keith was just such an amazing guy, and he's great at taking other IPs and making them special. There's a reason that the Decemberists came to him to make Illumat. He's just that good. All right, let's go on to the next, which should be Philip, if I've got these organized right. Grand Theft Auto.
Grand Theft Auto, the trilogy, the definitive edition. Rockstar has officially announced, it's been a leaked rumor for a while, but they finally announced officially that they will be releasing a remastered collection of GTA 3, GTA Vice City, and GTA San Andreas later this year. There's not a lot of time left of this year, so there's not a whole lot of dates to guess from on where it's going to come out.
It might
but
actually
they say it's this year. It seems awfully close to announce it, a few days ago, and it's October. We got a new game coming out before the end of the year. There's only 2 months in the year, after our current one. So
2 months.
There's not even a whole fiscal quarter before the year ends.
Right.
So,
cutting it close.
It's probably, some people, there's some speculation, there's a lot of rumors that this is going to be remastered with the Unreal Engine, which could be a substantial update to the visuals. I'm not expecting it to be that big of a jump. I'm expecting it to be, remastered in basically the same graphics and stuff, but they promise it'll have some gameplay updates, and visual updates, but they haven't provided any footage of the game, just some, stills of artwork like this. And more images than this, but this kind of artwork. So they haven't actually provided any images of what the game itself looks like, or anything about the gameplay or much details. They just told us they put. Also, while they're releasing this, they're also removing the existing versions of the games that are available on online stores from the stores. So, right now, yeah, they gave a 1 week notice that they're going to pull the existing downloadable, purchasable versions of these 3 games from the PlayStation Store and the Xbox Store, which I already own, and so I can download them at any time. I replayed these games in 2020 off of a digital download, so that further lends credence to the idea that this new definitive edition is just a slightly updated version of the existing games that we have for this trilogy. But if they're going to be putting on PS5 and Xbox Series X and Nintendo Switch, which is new. These games have never been on a Nintendo console before.
Right.
hopefully they don't make you stream it like some games. That's something that's been happening a lot with Nintendo. These or an uncomfortable amount of times where they're making games available for stream. Hopefully they can make a PS2 game run on the Switch.
One would hope. If it can run on Android and iOS, it ought to be able to run on a Switch.
Yeah. So, yeah, not a whole lot more to say. I'm a huge fan of these, but I'm keeping my expectations low on how much is changing. But I am definitely keeping my eye on it. As big of a fan as I am of this trilogy.
I wasn't a big player of it, but I can tell you the hype. I think the most hyped of the Grand Theft Auto titles in my experience was Vice City, probably followed by San Andreas. I think I heard so much hype about those two games, everybody had to have them. But then I think there was a little bit of a letdown in San Andreas because it wasn't as good as Vice City. At least that's what I heard. But I didn't play them, so I couldn't tell you for sure.
Which of the three is the best is debatable. Different fans have a preference. The two that are typically the most, argued for as the best is Vice City and San Andreas. GTA 3 is like the most revolutionary because it was the first of the three and it made the biggest leaps in open world gaming, open world gameplay. But after that, other than that, it's debatable between which is better between Vice City and San Andreas. Right. Some people prefer the character Tommy Vercetti and the setting and music from Vice City. Me personally, I love Vice City. I love all three of these a lot. My favorite is San Andreas. The massive scope, you got a whole state to explore and make chaos. You got 3 major cities, you got a desert, you got this mountain region in the woods. There's just so much to San Andreas that and those are my 2 favorite GTA games in general.
Like I said, I never got into the GTA franchise, games, so not gonna lie. To me, it's not my kind of franchise. If I want to get into a car game, I'm more likely to get into something like Twisted Metal.
Yeah.
Or off.
Well, I mean, these games are RPGs. Do what you want games. Really, yeah. They're
beat up the hookers and hijack cars and
they're car games. They're shooting games. They're flying games. Well, GTA 3 you can't do much flying. GTA 3 there's one airplane you can fly, and it's awful. Just awful.
Right. But yeah, they're big open world games with a few different things you can do. And I can understand
a lot of stuff. Like San Andreas has you asking, "Hey, what can I do? Can I do that?" And then you go and you do it, and you're like, "I can't believe I was able to do that."
Right, and that appeals to several people. They want to be able to break out of the script and do things a little bit off on the side, corner cases and stuff. Very what I want to say, very Ryan Reynolds. Let's break the fourth wall and go do something else.
I also felt like CJ, your main character on San Andreas, was the most likable of the 3 protagonists. Although Tommy Vercetti is a fun character, but he's an asshole, like outright blatant asshole. He's fun, but he's a dick.
Hey, that's a lot of main characters. I mean, Ash from Evil Dead, he could be an asshole, but he was a fun asshole.
Yeah.
Han Solo is a lot of an asshole. He's a fun asshole, but
like Claude on GTA 3 was a silent protagonist. He never speaks. He just takes orders. So he's kind of a wet blanket personality-wise, but he gets the job done. Yeah, he's bland. Tommy Vercetti had a very colorful personality. One of my favorite lines of Tommy Vercetti in that game is like, if you're in a firefight and you're shooting people, sometimes he'll just scream out, "Nobody fucks with Tommy Vercetti." And I don't know why, that just amused me so much as like a 10-year-old playing it.
I love it when games put in those little snippets of attitude. I like it when they do that in
Yeah.
movies too. Movies and games where you're starting to get into the really serious stuff, and it's got like a big thick plot line and everything. The tension's building, and just as a quick tension reliever, somebody like Ash will get up and say, "Hail to the king, baby," and just break the ice,
Yeah.
and you're like, "Ah, I needed that
But
breather." Okay.
But like, while Vice City was basically the movie Scarface as a video game, San Andreas was like, what is that, Boys in the Hood or whatever, for a good chunk of it. San Andreas had a very well-developed story, in my opinion. It was a much longer story. Samuel L. Jackson was a corrupt cop that was always fucking you over.
Samuel L.
It had
Jackson
like
did some
a
of the
great
voice.
cast. Yeah, he was the
Oh,
voice of
nice.
a cop in that game in San Andreas. He was a corrupt
I'd
cop that
forgotten
was
that.
that was a dick to you anytime you see it, and he kicks you out of your hometown, Los Santos.
Mm,
Like in the beginning of the game, it feels like the whole game is just gang war stuff, but then you get betrayed by a fellow gang member, and the cops, like Samuel L. Jackson, another cop, they take you out of town, and they throw you out in the woods to theoretically die in the woods, but they at least tell you never to come back to Los Santos. And then you have to like make your way to San Fierro, which is their San Francisco, and start up a mechanic shop or whatever, and build that up, and eventually expand into more businesses and get more jobs. That leads you all the way over to Las Venturas, which is their Las Vegas, and you eventually own a casino. And then once you're rich and you're successful, you finally make your way back to Los Santos to take on the corrupt cops and the gangs that are taking over your old territories, and you're back to the gang wars again. But now you're stronger. You have higher stats. You have better access to weapons and other resources. And
so there's a
it
definite
was just an
feel of
awesome, like,
progression.
climatic. Yeah, yeah, and and CJ was overall a likable person. He did bad stuff. He killed people and whatnot, but he was a relatable psychopathic
Hey,
protagonist.
so's
You
John
know?
Wick. What do you know? I mean, what do you expect? John Wick is the
So
same thing. Relatable psychopath.
yeah.
We have relatable
So I'm
psychopaths. We
sorry.
love them.
I didn't mean to go so long about it, but these games especially, I've replayed all three of these games so many times. I own so many copies of them. Even though I own the playable versions on my PS4 that I've downloaded, there's a good chance I'll buy these ones and then play them again, even if it's just a small update.
Yeah. Hey.
But I'm keeping my expectations in check.
Yeah. Barely. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll go. We're gonna move on.
Yeah.
Next should be me. Okay. Now I talked about the Critical Role animated show coming in February. They've also got the first feature-length adventure, full-length adventure in the Critical Role world, in coming out soon. It's the Critical Role Call of the Nethers is a new full-length adventure designed for levels 3 to level 12 characters. Take place from the waste of Zoras to the oasis city of Ank'Harel, a new sunken realm known as the Netherdeep, which is described as a mix between the far realms and a deep ocean. Well, one of Exandria's twin moons, Riodus, will also play a role in the campaign. Stunning artwork. Of course, quality products have come out of Critical Role. Matt Mercer has proven himself to be not just a great Dungeons & Dragons DM and voice actor and an okay regular screen actor, but he has proven to be a rather talented game developer. I mean, he, as a DM, of course, you got to be good at some world building to be one of the greats when it comes to dungeon mastering. But being able to take that world building and put it into a source book, I mean, the Exandria source book is one of the best campaign books out for 5th edition. in my humble opinion. And so this is a new book put together by Matt Mercer and the group. Um, Matt Mercer and James Hayek have put it together. And of course, James Hayek works for Dungeons and Dragons themselves. Matt Mercer is one of the leads of the Critical Role company now, because they basically took their show and turned it into an entire gaming like empire, because they've got their Twitch channel, their own personal Twitch channel now. They've got their own personal website, their own merchandise, and they're starting to do things like the animated series and all these things themselves. And they're even coming out with a few games, as I pointed out a couple of episodes ago. So you're getting a lot of this great stuff. Let's see. What is it? My co-leads. Oh, yeah. My co-leads, Matt Mercer and James Hayek, have crafted a story that feels true to Critical Role while also being something that all D&D fans can enjoy, said Chris Perkins, one of the game design architects of Dungeons & Dragons. And that means Chris Perkins is also working on the book. And Chris Perkins, not only is he the DM for Acquisitions Incorporated and one of the lead designers of Dungeons & Dragons itself, but he has been like the producer and editor of the Monster Manual. He did a lot of the work as lead editor on Dragon Magazine, and he was the author of the original world building column in Dragon. Campaign builder world building article that ran from week to week, where he helped DMs create their own campaign worlds and settings. And every time he runs a campaign, he sits down and creates a new campaign world. He doesn't use all the preset campaign worlds in general. And so that's something to look forward to if you're a big Dungeons and Dragons nerd like I am, or a Critical Role nerd like a lot more people are becoming. And if you just want to see more of Matt Mercer's brilliant work outside of voice acting, because he's really a inspired inventor of things like core class variants. Like his version of the Artificer is a lot of people's favorite version. He also came up with the I can't remember the name of the class, though, that was the really big Slayer class that basically the Witch Hunter, Vin Diesel's Witch Hunter, was kind of based on Blood Hunter. And so got to check that out. But that's all I really got for that. This is another quick one. So it's okay that you went a little long on Grand Theft Auto, because I'm not going very long on this at all. But we're going to go ahead and move forward. And keeping with that D&D train of thought, Greg is going to tell us about the TV series coming this fall from G4.
Don't get too excited. It's not an animated series or a live-action series, but coming off the success of their D&D Live 2021 segments, which included people like Jack Black, Xavier Woods, Kevin Smith, Tiffany Haddish. I watched 2 of the 3 of them. They were really good.
I didn't watch this
G4 is coming back with a whole... But I did, and they really had a blast. Oh, Patton Oswalt was in one, playing remotely.
He's been in it before. I love Patton Oswalt.
Yeah. Everybody had a good time. And it looks like G4, when they launch their new platform, their new channel, is going to continue with that and do a whole series of D&D Live series. They don't have any more names. I don't know whether to expect a single, like a campaign kind of Critical Role style, or if they're going to keep doing one-shots with a rotating celebrity panel.
It'd be nice to see
But
some
I'm
more,
excited
like,
either
from
way.
Vin Diesel, and
Yeah. In
what?
fact, I was hoping that you guys could help me out with this. It says at the end of the article, G4 is coming to TV and streaming services via Verizon Fios, Cox, and Xfinity TV. Those are basically cable providers, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I forgot that I was planning on making this one of my subjects. I forgot to. I was like, when I was sending Doc's subjects, I was like, what am I forgetting about? And it was what I was forgetting about was the story that G4 is coming back in November.
Yeah.
As they're going to be a TV station on cable, and they're also got a multi-year partnership with Twitch as well. And they've talked about how they're bringing back a lot of their classic shows, like Attack of the Show, X-Play, I forget what some of the other ones were. Ninja Warrior.
Yeah.
That link at the end of the article, just above the illustration, that'll take you to the press release that's got like what date they're releasing, what providers they're going to be affiliated with, the titles of shows.
Yeah.
And their website looks pretty snazzy too.
And that list that you gave earlier, that is a list of cable television providers.
Okay.
I think you have better links than I do.
That'll hit a lot of areas.
Attack of the Show is coming back. X-Play is coming back. Ninja Warrior is... I don't think Ninja Warrior ever left. It just changed what channel it was being broadcast on.
It went to a different
But that's coming back to G4.
Yeah, the link above the...
And and they're going to boot up the D&D live series too.
So, yeah, it's curious. I didn't get to watch a lot of G4 because I didn't have the service to watch it, but I did watch it when I had the chance. Like, I'd be at a friend's house or someplace, and Attack of the Show was pretty good. I think I liked X-Play more. I think X-Play was my favorite show that they had on there.
I think the only thing I really saw was Attack of the Show a little bit. And that was in the runs.
That's where I learned that's where I got to know about, Olivia Munn, who's now, doing actual movies and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
She was in one of the X-Men movies as Psylocke and a few others. I can't think of off the top of my head at the moment what else she did. But she's been in a number of movies in the last few years.
But yeah, so G4 is like one of those interesting stations. Always had an interest in checking out, but I never had a network that carried it. So like I saw some like recordings on friends like TiVos and stuff, but
yeah.
And that was mainly, like I said,
I'm planning on following their Twitch account and seeing what I can find on there.
Yeah,
they're doing a thing right now called the G4 TV Beach House. It's like a pre-release they're referring to before they go full 24/7, and they're doing stuff on their Twitch and YouTube channels on Thursdays every week. It doesn't say when specifically, but I guess if you tune in now and then, you might see some preview stuff.
Thursday's a big day for Twitch broadcasting because that's also when Critical Role runs, among other things. Okay. Well, let's move on. And it is Lurch's turn, and he's going to talk about probably one of the best franchises in video games, Metroid Dread review.
Yeah, Metroid Dread. Which Metroid Dread I'm going to count as my spooky topic of the day since it's Dread.
Halloween month. Yes.
Okay, so Metroid Dread dropped a few days ago. And I have successfully finished the game. With 100% even. I got 100% of the stuff. and it's a 2D. It's considered the 5th mainline Metroid game, of the 2D games. And in my opinion, it is the best 2D Metroid game. I think it beats Super Metroid, which is generally considered the best Metroid game. I think Super Metroid was the best Metroid game of a first-time release, but I do think Zero Mission, which is a remake of the original Metroid game, was, at least gameplay-wise, better than Super Metroid. But this game, I think this newest game has the best gameplay, the smoothest. It's like the movements on Metroid Dread are so fluid. It just feels. It feels like it's just perfectly calibrated. Everything just moves so smooth and so fluid.
Okay.
What's that?
I said everything just syncs up. It flows.
Yeah. The story, the game, I think it also had the best story of the Metroid games. Like, Metroid games have, at least of the Metroid games I've played, and I've played most of them. There's a couple I haven't gotten to. But I've played the majority. I played all the mainline games. There's a couple of spin-off games I haven't gotten to. But I feel like it definitely has the best story of all the 2D games. Possibly the best story of all the games in general. This IGN review, I kind of went through part of it, and it feels very like their sentiments are very similar to mine. The Emmys are, they're dangerous as crap, and they will be oftentimes the cause of game over. Because if you get caught by an Emmy, unless you have a very specific item that can only be used until you defeat one, you can't hurt them. None of your regular weapons are able to harm them, even full-powered versions of them. But I think the story developed in this in an interesting, unexpected way for me, and I really enjoyed the way it went. The gameplay was great. The bosses were... the bosses in Metroid games tend to be pretty challenging. And this one is no exception. In fact, I think they were a little tougher in this one than they are in most other games. A benefit that they do in this one, versus most of the other games, is instead of having to go all the way back to the last save room where you save the game every time you die, it respawns you basically in the room just before you died, for the most part. And so, if you die, you choose to continue, you're just outside of where the boss fight was, or whatever threat was, so you can just walk through the door, and it'll have a cutscene, but the cutscene is skippable, so you don't have to rewatch it over and over again, if you're dying 10 times on the boss.
Right.
Which you'll die a number of times until you get to figure out what patterns and what the tricks are for this and that. So it had solid, and the boss fights, they're challenging, but they're not, I'm trying to think of what it is. It's not, unfairly challenging, they're challenging, but once you, figure out the patterns, any well-made boss fight,
they're challenging,
it should
but doable.
Be a challenge in the sense that, yeah, they're doable challenges, you just have to kind of figure them out. Most of the boss fights that after I beat them, I was low on health. I would be, I'd start a fight with 699 energy units, and then end the fight with 7 energy units. And I'm like, if I stub my toe on a bad guy just outside this door, and it makes me refight this guy, I'm gonna be so pissed.
And of course, Metroid is the.
But
first...
yeah, so you know.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was like, Metroid is, of course, the first video game franchise to feature a female star character, but nobody knew it in the beginning. Because people in the beginning didn't know Samus was female.
Yeah.
And she was the
first. Yeah, you had to
first.
beat the game in a certain amount of time to even get a helmet reveal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was one of the. It was the first game.
And even the yeah.
It was the first game to break the gender lock and allow a female to be the lead uh, action character, not the one being rescued all the time. You know, but
Yeah.
we never knew it. They hid it from us till the end. It was very Joan of Arc and stuff, where you dress up in the men's armor and everybody think you're a male fighter, but then you finally get to take the armor off and say, "Hey, wait a minute, she's in a bikini,"
Yeah.
and that was a major reveal back in the day when it came out.
The yeah. The most difficult puzzles, like it had some interesting puzzles that were tough to do, especially ones that involved your Shine Spark abilities. Using the Speed Booster and Shine Spark, because there was a few of those puzzles that, for one, required figuring out what the puzzle is going to be, and then once you figured out what it's supposed to be, required very, very precise timing and platforming to solve the puzzle. And I don't want to give away more specifics on it, but if you want to 100% it, you better learn how Shine Spark works.
Without spoilers, what is the Shine Spark?
So there's an upgrade you get in the game called Speed Booster, which in past games, when you had the Speed Booster, it was basically if you run for a certain amount of time, you activate your Speed Booster and you run extra fast and deal damage to everything around you. And then your Shine Spark basically is an interruption to that to transition it to a different move, where
cool.
So while you're running super fast, once you built up the speed and the speed boost ability, you then quickly press the down button on your the down direction on your analog stick in this new game, and she'll stop and kind of squat down, and then she'll start glowing like this purple glow, and now you have your Shine Spark readied. And then from there you can then move around to reposition yourself just a little bit, and then press the B button and point your analog stick in a direction, and you'll shoot off in that direction at a high speed and a very far direction. Basically, you shoot off into that direction like a rocket until you hit a surface that stops you.
So you become Cannonball for a minute.
It was just funny to me because. It was funny to me because I played a game called Valhalla Cyberpunk Bartender Action. There's a song in the game that a character sings called Shine Spark.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's an ability that they've had since at least Super Metroid on Super Nintendo. I don't believe it's older than that. I think that was the first game it was introduced in, but it's been in several past Metroid games. And it's mostly a 2D Metroid game mechanic. I know it's not in Metroid Prime 1 and Metroid Prime 2, but it might be in Prime 3. I don't know for sure. But I know it's not in the first two. But yeah, it's considered an advanced technique. And most of the time when you're using it, you're just like stopping yourself and then kind of positioning yourself to launch yourself upwards into the sky for something. But some of the puzzles require you to carefully maneuver and drop a bomb on a spot, drop to a certain place, then Shine Spark in a direction and deliberately hit an angle of a surface in a way that allows you to squat again without slamming into the surface, which would so that you can reset your Shine Spark without ending it. And it can be tough getting the timing and the precision on some of those just right.
I can imagine. It reminds me of some of the platforming tricks you have to do in, Hollow Knight, or even the old Tony Hawk's Pro Skater games, where there's a way to get from here to here, but you have to do this very specific... You have to find exactly the right line and do the exact right thing at the right time.
Yeah. The right kind of grind on the right spot of that rail, so that you launch in that direction at the right angle.
Yeah, and then and then hit this one piece of architecture that you're not supposed to be able to access, but if you do it just right.
Yeah, it's maneuvers like that you can do
fun.
with the Shine Spark ability.
Yeah.
And so it takes a little bit of practice to get some of the more advanced movements of Shine Spark. Like you're introduced how to do it to jump upwards, but you can then do a lot more with it once you get the hang of it from there. You can even turn into a ball form and then launch yourself in a direction as a ball
Very
to
much
get over pitfalls and
a
stuff that you
Sonic the
normally
Hedgehog
couldn't
kind
get
of move.
over.
Very much a Sonic the Hedgehog kind of move.
Yeah, it does. It is kind of like the spin attack launch or the spin launch, in a way.
Yep.
It is kind of similar to that. Just more effort. It takes a little more effort to do than that move was, but the effect is pretty similar.
My
But also,
co-host
it's
showed up.
a wider range because you literally can. You have like an 8-directional, directions that you can launch in whenever you use it.
Right.
And you can do it while you're squatting, or while you're in a ball, or while you're standing, and then launch in all 8 different directions.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool, and to pull it off, you have to have a certain amount of runway to be able to run fast enough to activate the speed boost in the first place.
You got to reach 88 miles an hour. Come on now.
But yeah, there's certain. Yes.
Can't reach
I
88
do
miles an
appreciate how
hour.
in this
Can't do
particular
it.
game they I really appreciate how in Dread they modified the speed boost to not activate unless you are clicking in the left analog stick. Because every once in a while, in the older games, you might accidentally activate the speed boost just because you happen to be running that, but then it throws off your jump because you're trying to time a jump a certain way or something. And so, in this one, you activate your speed boost on purpose, not just because you happen to be running in a direction.
Right.
And so it helps with the precision. They did a lot of stuff with the controls, the minutia of the controls in Dread, that helped with precision. That was, so you have a lot of similar abilities as past games, but with a much better, more precise control of it. So you don't have the same kinds of accidents you had from before, just because the boxes being weird or something like that.
Intentional combos are always better than accidental combos.
Yes. Yeah.
My
And so yeah, I give it the IGN here is giving it a 9 out of 10, and I would say it definitely deserves at least that 9. I might even go like 9.5. And it's selling well. It's on track to potentially be the best-selling Metroid game ever made. We don't have, we've only got a few days of it being released and only limited information available, but it's selling faster than. So far, it's selling faster than any past Metroid game in certain regions. So,
say hi, Kitty.
I'm hoping it. I'm hoping it gets at least 5 or 6 million units sold in its lifetime, because the Metroid games are too good for the sales that they get. As a franchise, prior to Dread, the whole franchise has only sold 17 million units.
And it's such a long-running franchise.
All of their
you expect
games.
it to be more.
Yeah. Yeah, it came out. The first game came out in the 80s.
Yeah.
So you really would think it'd have more sales than that, but and that's why this is the first new 2D. This is the first new 2D game we've got since 2002, 2003, somewhere in that window. So we've had a couple of 2D games that released that were remakes of older Metroid games. But this is the first fully new Metroid game. And it basically concludes the storyline of the 2D Metroids. Because the 4, this is being the 5th of them. There's 5 primary 2D Metroid games, and they've been kind of carrying across the specific story, and this is promoted as being the conclusion of that story of the main games. So, and I'm satisfied. I'm really happy with. I'm really satisfied with how they played this out.
Yep.
Anyway, that's my 2 cents. Highly recommend it. Please go out and buy it. There's a lot of Unfortunately, there's already pirated copies out there that people are downloading.
I was doing a little Googling while you were talking. Some articles said that it had been pirated and ported to PC before the game even released.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would have done some
Yeah,
of
that's a
that,
shame.
but my
That's a
co-host
shame.
decided to. Our special guest co-host tried to take all my attention here. If you can see, I can barely move
Yeah.
because my cat is demanding my attention. He's going to turn into a parrot.
You can't see.
You don't need to show
You can
them your
barely see my
ass,
co-host now.
kitty.
He's hiding behind my head.
Yeah, and mine
I've
just
got
went
one
and
over
became
there and one over here.
and mine is now on my shoulders like a parrot, or like a stole.
Aww.
He does that a lot. He loves
Happy cat.
he loves to relax on my shoulders. Okay, well, let's see. Let's go on to the next thing, which should be my movie recommended. Oh, excuse me. For the week. Let's see here. Mouse, where'd you go? Kitty, where'd the mouse go? Did you eat the mouse? Mousey, there's a mouse. Okay. And we were speaking of Freddy Krueger earlier. Well, that happens to be my recommendation for the week because on HBO they just dropped the Freddy Krueger collection. So you can watch all 8 of the original Freddy Krueger movies on HBO Max right now. And, of course, that's the Robert Englund classics. Probably, in my opinion, one of the best horror series ever to come out. Robert Englund is a brilliant horror
I will
actor.
not argue with that statement.
I mean, Robert Englund is just such a great horror actor. He puts so much energy and character into his characters. Freddy comes alive with Robert Englund portraying him. The whole burnt-faced, slasher is a common theme in and of itself, but Freddy was always something more. He was something that just he still freaks people out to this day. He's inspired things. He's crossed over with Jason Voorhees in the Freddy vs. Jason. Probably the only one of only 2 of the Jason movies I really liked. The other one being Jason X when he went into space, just because it was kind of corny.
Yeah?
Just because it was a little corny. But I'm not a big, like I said before when we were talking horror movies, I'm not a big fan of like Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees. But you give me Freddy Krueger or Chucky or anybody like that, and I'm all over it. And Freddy Krueger I can watch over and over and over again. And if you've friended me on Facebook, you've seen me periodically. I'll share music videos from the Merkins, which are comedy spoofs where the horror genre people sing stuff like the Slash Street Boys instead of the Backstreet Boys. And I love Freddy. Well, he likes to throw in the word bitch all the time whenever he's talking.
Yeah.
Because is it a bitch? Your brother's burning it up, and now you must die.
Did you say there was 8? Did you say they had 8 Freddy Krueger movies on
I think
HBO?
so. It says the collection. I can double check to see how many are shown.
I'm kind of curious what they count as the collection. Like, do they count Freddy vs. Jason as a collection?
I don't think Freddy vs. Jason is in there.
Or the
New Nightmare,
reboot movie.
The reboot would not be included, I'm pretty sure. And Freddy vs. Jason, I don't think is included. But a New Nightmare should be. Let's see here.
Yeah.
Let's see. It was in this list of movies here because I just saw it.
I didn't even know they remade the original.
They did add Freddy vs. Jason is also on HBO Max right now. It's just not. It's just not in the collection, maybe. And then the original Friday the 13th is on HBO right now too. Where is the
Nice.
Freddy's collection? And of course, now it's not coming up on my list. But
Yeah, I've logged into my HBO account as well, and I'm trying to scroll through.
it
I'm
was
pretty
on one
sure
of
that of the
the.
original
It was in the
series of
popular.
Freddy movies, it was only 7.
Right, but then New Nightmare came out.
No, I think New Nightmare is number 7.
I can't remember.
I'm
I've got the box set of DVDs or Blu-rays, one or the other. I think it's
yeah,
DVDs.
I'm seeing 1 through 5, Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, New Nightmare, and Freddy vs. Jason, and the 2010 remake.
Are all the Freddys that are available, or is that what you've seen in the
Are
collection?
all the ones in existence?
Right. And so that makes 9 total, or 10, 9 or 10. Yeah. So, but yeah, because I'm on one of my sites, and I'm on HBO Max in another window, and I'm not seeing
Yeah,
the collection that I had seen before. Because
yeah,
I'd opened it up to make sure it was available before I was going to recommend it. I knew I wanted to recommend Freddy for one of my October recommendations because, hey, it's horror month.
yeah, yeah.
And I knew I was going to talk about Chucky a little bit, but I was planning to actually do that next week because Halloween being the release of the new series. But either way, yeah, you can't really mess with Freddy. He's one of
Okay.
the OG
Yeah,
horror.
New Nightmare is the 7th movie. Freddy vs. Jason's the 8th movie. That's what I thought.
Okay, so New Nightmare's the last one in the
So,
collection. Unless the 8-movie collection
okay.
actually includes Freddy vs. Jason. It might be an 8-movie
Yeah,
collection.
and it could.
Yeah.
Because in the time, well,
They
it's
remix the
the last
collections all
one
the
that
time.
was, it's the last one they made that featured Robert Englund as Freddy. So that'd be all 8 of the movies featuring Freddy. Robert Englund Freddy.
Yeah. And Robert Englund is Freddy as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I'm not saying the other guy didn't do an okay job. I did finally watch it, and he did an okay job. It's just following in the footsteps of Robert Englund is just a hard trick to follow. Really,
That
personality.
movie had writing problems and directing problems more than it
Yeah,
had
but the actor was
actor
not a
problems.
problem. The actor was not a
The reboot.
problem. The biggest problem the actor faced was the fact that he was trying to step into Robert Englund's shoes. But as an actor, if
Yeah.
Robert Englund hadn't done it before him, people would have been saying he did a great job, despite the fact that the writing and directing was kind of crap. But when you had to follow Robert Englund, who did just such a fantastic job and could even take a crap script and make it great, then it's a hard thing to compete with.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of has made Robert Englund a horror movie icon now. Now he spends a lot of time just doing cameos in horror movies because of his fame as Freddy.
Yeah.
Just the fact that he's going to be in like a TV series cameo or a movie cameo will make people watch it just for his little 5-second appearance. It's kind of like looking for Stan Lee in the Marvel movies. You kind of look for Robert Englund to say, "Hey, look, it's Robert Englund."
But yeah, I would always encourage anyone to watch. I mean, as long as you can handle those kinds of
horror
scenes,
films. Yeah, some people can't
those
handle
kinds of horror films.
Dream Warrior was
Freddy.
probably my favorite.
Mine too.
Dream
Number
Warrior.
3.
Number 3, Dream Warrior.
That was my favorite.
It was probably the one I think that was the most well done. It had the dream sequences with the Dungeons and Dragons kid that became the game master.
Yeah.
And it had the Luther who could super muscles and stuff, and then the one doped out chick that became the bad bitch with switchblades when goes to fight Freddy directly, switchblade versus knife glove.
Yeah. Yeah, so kind of the basic, and number 3 for Dream Warriors, it's a reference to, like, it's a group of teens who are figuring out how they can fight back against Freddy by using their own imaginations to make themselves warriors in their dreams to fight Freddy.
And
it actually
utilizing
finally
each of
gives Freddy a little bit more of a challenge, and so
because they each utilize their dream
it
power.
leads to some interesting,
They figure out that each one
Yeah.
has their own power in their dreams, and if you can utilize your dream power, just like Freddy's utilizing his dream powers, it puts you on a more even footing with him. And it was the closest thing to a Freddy Krueger role-playing game adventure group. You know, because the adventuring party was the Dream Warriors, and Freddy was the big bad, and each one had their role in the party. And like Luther was the heavy, the tank, and of course the dungeon master. He was the magician, and the one girl with the blades. She was your rogue that went in, slashing with the rogue powers, and then kind of your cleric was Alice, who could bring people in and out of the dream realm. She's the one that had the overpower for the dreams.
Yeah, you can do it. Yeah.
So it's totally a D&D group. It's D&D group meets Freddy Krueger. Yeah.
So we both agree on which is the best one of the Robert Englund ones. Which one do you think was the worst?
I
Freddy
wasn't
Krueger movie.
as big a fan of the second one. I think they kind of pushed it a little
Freddy's
bit on the second
Revenge?
one. Yeah. I mean, the first one obviously was fantastic and built the series, and it starred, among other things, a very young Johnny Depp, which is often forgotten. But then the second one, it was a little forced, I think. They tried too quickly to pull out a sequel, and if they hadn't come out with Dream Warriors as the third one, it might have died. But Dream Warriors came out, and everybody's like, "Oh wait, no, renewed interest. Never mind, make more, more."
So I agree with you on that one as well. On to
being probably the least impressive.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad.
And,
it was just the least impressive.
Yeah. I will say that New Nightmare was a weird, different take on the story.
Well, it was the fourth wall breaker.
You remember in New Nightmare... Huh? New Nightmare was the fourth wall breaking one.
Yeah. And the advantage of that one is you got to see a lot of Robert Englund outside of makeup and in makeup, which is a nice contrast.
Yeah. He was a victim and a villain in the same movie. Like, Freddy Krueger kills Robert Englund. And when I say kills Robert Englund, I don't mean kills the character Robert Englund played. Robert Englund was playing as himself. An actor in Hollywood who's known for playing horror movies.
Is killed by his most famous creation. Yeah. His most famous character kills him off. And the dichotomy between Freddy being this serial killer of children and a living, breathing nightmare, and Robert Englund being like one of the nicest actors that they ever worked with, and everybody's saying how he's like a father or uncle figure or big brother. He's so nice. He's so great to work with. He's so sweet. But then he's Freddy.
Yeah.
And then it's like the dichotomy hits and you're like, whoa. Okay, kitty, you got to get down now.
Yeah.
You're starting to scratch areas I don't want scratched.
So.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
But this is definitely, I thought, was a worthwhile recommendation for the week, especially for Halloween month.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And we're going to go ahead and find my mouse first, and lose it again, and find it.
It's on top of his hat.
Right.
Well, it was.
Well, the trouble is, it's like the mouse is doing that disappearing thing, where you have to like scroll it off of the screen and back in to make it reappear. Okay, and the Spelljammer thing. Go ahead, Greg. A lot of Dungeons and Dragons this episode.
I'll try to be brief with this one. because we're already almost at 10. Wow, we've had a good conversation this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, but luckily we've only got 2 things to talk about in media, so.
Well, long story short, this article is dated October 6th, and it says towards the bottom, the D&D design team has confirmed that they plan on visiting at least 3 classic campaign settings in the next 2 years. And there's a lot of meat there. 2 days later, Dungeons & Dragons confirmed Spelljammer races in public playtest. They released playtest material that included the Astral Elf, the Auto Gnome, the Gif, the Hadozee, the Plasmoid, and the Thri-Kreen. 4 of those are apparently specific to the Spelljammer setting, and I'm excited for this because I've heard people talk about, gush about Spelljammer, and there's been nods to it in 3rd and 4th and a little bit of 5th edition, but there hasn't been a dedicated Spelljammer book, I think, since 1989.
2nd edition
Jeez.
was the last real Spelljammer support. I loved Spelljammer, and I prefer
That
it over
explains why
Planescape.
I don't know what the
actually.
hell you're talking about.
I prefer it over Planescape, actually. The thing is, at 3rd edition, they redirected their plane hopping scheme to Planescape and went away from the Spelljammer format, which was, for those who don't know, a quick little primer on Spelljammers. It was the way to go between the different game worlds of Dungeons & Dragons, but instead of traveling through like interdimensional portals and stuff, you entered into an astral sea called the Phlogiston, using special ships called Spelljammers. They were magically run astral ships, like the dwarves had forge ships that the power of making magic items in their forge actually powered the ship to go through the Phlogiston. And the the Mind Flayers, the Illithid, had the Nautiloid ships that looked like giant multi-limbed snail type Nautiloid things, a cross between a squid or a Nautiloid and a snail or other kind of crustacean, that would go through and they would capture people and enslave them. And they were, of course, the father or mother race to the Githyanki and the Githzerai, which were humans that had been kidnapped and corrupted by the astral energies of the astral plane while being slaves to the Illithid. And so part of their origin comes back to Spelljammers. And the fact that, we kind of knew that Spelljammers would eventually get some love, because there was even a D&D, one of their big event days where they did one of the big campaigns where everybody comes in to do like a raid. They had to raid a Nautilus in one of the published events. So we knew that Spelljammers was possibly going to be touched on eventually, but a big part of the more modern player base was all clamoring for Planescape, which is why Spelljammers keeps getting pushed to the back burner. But it's really exciting to me to see Spelljammers come in, because it was such an interesting new take on traveling between the worlds as you got into the big astral ocean and you went from the spheres, which were the different planes. So you go to Oerth, where Greyhawk was, or you go to Faerun, where you found Forgotten Realms, or you go to Krynn for Dragonlance, and you go to Athos for Dark Sun, and they were all linked in the Phlogiston, and the Phlogiston would also touch onto the inner and outer planes, so you could touch the actual true astral and ethereal planes, or go to like Elysium or Olympus, the outer planes where the deities list, or the nine hells, or places like that, all could be linked through the Phlogiston. So that's what Spelljammers was, and it was my favorite. It's like one of the most brilliant settings they ever came out with for D&D, in my opinion. And they even had a comic book series, in addition to the D&D comic book series that they had a dedicated Spelljammer series for a while. And I don't remember which comic book imprint did it, but it was that well done. And then the first D&D collectible card game is even called Spelljammers.
Yeah,
So,
kind of. Speaking of card games, it kind of reminds me of the Weatherlight in Magic the Gathering, the ship
very,
that
very
some of the
similar.
heroes use to travel between planes, which normally only planeswalkers could do. Um, in the 2018 adventure, this might be the one you're talking about, Waterdeep Dungeon of the Mad Mage. There
Hmm.
is a Spelljammer ship featured, so that
Yes.
might have been a nod to, hey, this is something that we might deal with lately. And with the 4 of the new 6 playable races being Spelljammer specific, it looks very much, nothing confirmed yet, but it looks very much like that's going to be one of the big campaign settings that they're going to revisit
Well,
soon.
you did
And
mention
it
this.
also might be a way to capitalize on the popularity of Starfinder,
Mhm.
Paizo's science fantasy setting.
Right.
And now seems like a good time as any to try to bring some competition.
Not only that, but it appeals to people who have kind of a want to play like pirates or space pirates. It appeals to people who like
Yeah,
certain spaghetti westernist sci-fi stuff like Firefly. Replace the Firefly Serenity with the Spelljammer ship. You know, um, especially since Kylie had a tendency to very much anthropomorphize the ship in her mind, anyway. But yeah, so it's going to appeal to all that. Now, another thing that excites me about what you said is one of the races you were talking about was the Thri-Kreen, which is not
hmm
really a Spelljammer race as much as it is a Dark Sun race.
yeah. They
Uh,
they mentioned that the Thri-Kreen were associated with Dark Sun, and that the Astral Elves live on the astral plane, obviously, which has been explored in a few settings, but
Spelljammer and
more so
Planescape are
in
big.
Planescape. So they might still touch on
Oh
Planescape.
yeah, they're going to do some with Planescape because there's such a high demand for it. The thing is, I think that Spelljammers and Planescape can coexist. They're just two different ways to do it. And that's the thing. Is Magic is great because you have lots of avenues to the same destination. You don't have to. Everybody doesn't
hmm
have to do it all the same way. That's why a sorcerer and a warlock is different from wizards. They each have magic and it's all arcane magic, but they each took a different path to get there. You
Oh yeah,
know,
and Spelljammer, the premise of Spelljammer by definition would lend itself to crossover between a number of other properties, and especially since the last couple of years, they adapted all the Magic the Gathering settings to 5e rules. It's
yeah.
it's fertile ground for a crew that can do a run on that can raid an Orzhov gold vault in Ravnica and then sell their ill-gotten gain in Waterdeep or what have you.
Or you could build your own version of the Weatherlight and go up against an Elithid Nautiloid.
Yeah.
That would just be fantastic.
hmm
Yeah, exactly. Or have Astral Elves come up
Or
against the Llanowar
yeah.
Elves. You know, be
have a spin-off of the Warforged that mimic the Phyrexians from Magic the Gathering.
right, exactly. That there would be so much fertile ground there for crossover because that's the
hmm
main key benefit to Spelljammers and Planescape. They were crossover campaign settings. They weren't exactly campaign settings in and of themselves. They were the bridges between campaign settings, but they fleshed out the bridge so that you could do all kinds of adventure on the bridge. You don't even have to go into a setting to do your adventuring. Instead of like,
Yeah.
okay, I teleport to this other world, and it happens in a blink of an eye. You say, I'm heading to Athos, and you board a spelljamming ship and you fly to Athos. and maybe your opponent, who's trying to beat you to Athos, goes to the city of gates in Planescape and tries to get to the gate to Athos before you can fly to Athos through the Phlogiston. And you both have different adventures as you're going. And it's great because you could intermingle them and mix them. And I think it would work really well. And one of the beauties of the Dungeons and Dragons multiverse, and that's of course one of the big terms nowadays for everything, is that it's all about everybody having their own different worlds and ways to cross over those worlds. And if you really wanted to make an interactive D&D club thing where everybody's table could be visited once in a while by other characters from other tables and stuff, the perfect way to do that would be through something like the Phlogiston or the City of Gates. Sigil.
Really makes me want to play Planescape Torment now.
Right.
Maybe I'll do that tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing about it. Speaking of which, how did your gaming go with that game last week? I'm kind of interested to hear what you had to say about that. No, just a brief, like, well. Was it great? Great? Okay.
The platformer or the Plan B?
The original one. The
Itora or Plan B?
Itora.
Itora, it handled really well. I dislike the fact that you can't swing your weapon while running. You have to come to a complete stop, which isn't great for Metroidvania-style platformers. But other than that, the platforming mechanics were good. The controls were really smooth. I think it's going to be something really good.
Okay, great. Well, I wanted an update on that because I didn't get a chance to log in and watch. Okay, well, now next we're going to be going into our media section. We're almost done, but luckily we only have 2 CW shows to cover this week because the Disney shows ended and the new CW shows actually premiere tonight, so we won't have access to see them until tomorrow. Which Legends of Tomorrow and Batwoman. So me and Lurch are going to go over that. This is usually when we say goodbye to Greg. This is actually one of the longest times Greg has been here because he actually made it to 10 o'clock because he usually says goodbye before we hit the media section. We usually have at least a half an hour.
Yeah.
So I assume we're going to say goodbye to you now, Greg?
Yeah, sorry for taking so long, but there was a lot of good stuff to cover.
That's okay. It's nice to have a Greg featured show because you end up missing more shows because you do the Holdfast Brewing Company and you've been busy as well, and you don't hang around for the media coverage because that's not your thing. So it's nice to every once in a while do a show that's featuring you more than us because me and Lurch, we get the limelight all the time because we're always here. We exist here. We have beds in the back. What are you talking about? But you can catch Greg not this month, but every month other than this, unless something special is going on, at Holdfast Brewing Company on the 3rd Wednesday of every month, where he will show you some fast casual board and card and dice games. Easy to get into games. He might bring a mid-level game or two for a couple people who are still interested after they try a couple fast casuals. Or you can sit down and join the puzzle racing with the rest of the patrons there at Holdfast. Enjoy a great microbrew or some great food and excellent company. If you're one of those that's willing to risk going out with COVID, still be safe. We do ask you to do that. Wear a mask, especially if you're not vaccinated. And that's, of course, when you're eating, you can't really wear a mask while you're eating. But, just do your due diligence as best you can so that we can get over this. Say hi to Greg.
And eat through your mask.
Yes.
Say hi to Greg. Holdfast just tapped their newest batch of, this year's batch of Dunvegan Ale, and it's really good. It's even better than last year.
There you go. So if you're into good craft brews and ales, go in and give that a try because tapping a new cask is kind of a celebratory thing. In the medieval times, is a big thing in the village when a new cask of something that had been set back got tapped for the first time. It was usually saved for a special event or festival or wedding or something. So go in there, enjoy that, enjoy the company. Say hi to Greg. If you've got ideas for our show that you would want to see updates on, we're always scouring all of our sources for things to talk about. And as you've seen, we kind of mix up our areas of influence. Like Lurch mainly talks about electronic games, but every once in a while he'll talk about something else. And then, of course, he helps me with the media section. Greg is mainly our tabletop guy, and also some story electronic games and stuff. And we'll talk on Kickstarters, but I also do that. So we do mix it up. We love to get some talk about cosplay and miniature painting and things of that nature. So if you got anything of that, please let us know. We're going to say bye to Greg for now. You can catch him tomorrow on Queen City Cardboard on the Twitch channel. So it's twitch.tv/Queen City Cardboard, where it sounds like he's considering playing Planescape Torment tomorrow. And I think we're starting at 10 o'clock or noon.
10 a.m.
10 a.m. I always get that
10
mixed
a.m.
up.
to at least 1.
Right. So at least from 10 to 1. And he may or may not play Planescape Torment. Mm-hmm. He may get a different idea in his crown before the show starts. But you never know what he'll play. But that's the great thing is you get to play along with him, be in his chat, ask him questions. Sometimes he'll actually notice the chat and answer you. Sometimes he gets so involved with the game, it's hard to get his attention. That's okay. Remember, it is about watching him play the game more than it is just talking in the chat window. But you can catch him there.
I do like engaging with people. It's just hard to read the chat from where my screens are.
Yeah, you get tunnel vision focus when you're actually playing a game too. Everybody does. Mm-hmm. I do it too. When I'm in, if I'm in a big raid combat, I'm not looking at the chat. I'm looking at the raid trying to stay alive. So I'm not going to get to your chat right away if I'm trying to keep me or my party alive. That's just a given. But you can catch him here tomorrow, and we'll see him next week. Next week would normally be his holdfast, but as we said, he won't be there this time. But it will be 417 Gamers taking his place, which is our local board game club that we have some loose affiliation with. So look for Rick Bagwell. And good night, Greg.
Good night,
Greg.
Take care.
Okay. Now, on to the CW verse. We only have Supergirl and Stargirl to touch on, and we're going to be real quick about this because it's already after 10 o'clock. And it takes so long just to even say goodbye to Greg. Because I'm long-winded. It's my thing. Supergirl. Of course, we've got him working on the totems again. Nixley is trying to get the Totem of Hope, which ends up being this rose out of a
Fix
stone.
the screen.
What about it?
The layout.
Oh yeah, that's right. Thanks for reminding me,
switching
Lurch.
down to 2 people.
Yeah, I got to switch to the 2 people layout, and then go in and swap the camera.
I think it's only showing my forehead.
Yeah, it's not showing you at all. I had to swap the camera, but there we go.
Oh, okay.
Now we see you. Okay. I always forget to do that at the end. Anyway, Nixley's trying to get all the totems. The Totem of Hope specifically is her current goal. But the gauntlet turns out to be you have to inspire a hope that will outlive the sun, I think it was. The specific line.
It was like some poetic thing. It was inspire a hope that it will shine brighter and last longer than the burning sun, or
something like that, yeah. And of course, that's not in Nixley's ballywick at all, but on the other hand, that's Kara's bread and butter. She's all about inspiring. and giving people hope. But she flies around. She tries and tries to give hope. And what she finally has to do to give the hope to everybody is to disarm a bunch of nuclear weapons between two warring nations, which is Casnia and Corto Maltese. And so
Which we're supposed to have peace negotiations that day,
but Nixley hit him with the
what's her
courage
name?
totem.
Nixley, yeah,
Hit him with the
which made
courage
them all
totem.
afraid of each other.
Made them basically let their fears run rampant, so they couldn't agree on at the peace tables. So they were defending themselves in fear by threatening the nuclear missiles on each other, and they actually end up launching a missile. And one of the things Nixley does is she decides, you know what, how I'm going to end up getting some of these totems is I'm going to let Supergirl get them, and then I'm going to make her give them to me. And so she kidnaps our British reporter, who's embedded with the Super Friends.
Yeah, William Day.
I always forget his name. And offers to trade him back for these totems. Also, her little menagerie keeper friend has built her a wristband to store the courage totem that gives her some minor use of her magic, basically specifically courage-based magic. But she can't do all of her magical abilities, unfortunately for her. And turns out no matter what Kara does to try to inspire the people, and she does it both as Supergirl and as Kara with her reporting, it doesn't give that inspiration that breaks the gauntlet. And so then the Corte Maltese actually launch a missile. And of course the Cosmians
nuclear missile
launch one in retaliation. And so you've got Brainy and John Johns and Kara up there basically catching the missiles, and then Brainy and John fly them into the sun so that they can be no more worry. And that, even though it interferes with the autonomy of the Earth, which is normally something that Supergirl is forbidden to do, but in this case, because of Nixley's interference, she's kind of got some leeway there. She does, and that inspires enough to where she can take the Hope Totem. And she ends up getting, sending the totems to Nixley in exchange for William Day. But the Hope Totem, I believe, burns her. It's
they
either
put a
Hope
spell
or
on it. They had
that's right.
Lena Luthor put a spell on it.
The repeller spell on the Hope Totem. So it burned Nixley, and she says, "You dare use magic against me?" But now the Super Friends have got the 3 totems, each locked in a lockbox.
The burn itself didn't do much because she was able to resist. Like, it burned her briefly, but then she was able to overpower the spell. And she's like, "You really thought magic would work on me?" And then William tripped her and made her fall and drop the totems. So the repeller spell was enough of a delay to leave her open to be tripped by him,
which allowed them to collect up the totems.
And
then they're talking about having to get all the totems to stop Nixley, and then they're like, "Wait a minute, we just need to destroy one of the totems, and they can never make that stone." And so they decide to destroy. Believe it or not, they end up deciding to destroy the Hope Totem because they figure even if people lose hope, they can always inspire new hope in them, because that's what they do. So they basically go throw the Hope Totem into the sun, and Nixley senses it, and she's like, curses kind of Dick Dastardly from the 70s and 80s cartoons, going, "Curses, you young kids, I'd have got away with it if it wasn't for you."
Yeah. And she's looking at her little globe thing. She's like, "I can't believe they destroyed the Hope Totem. Now I'll never get all my power back.
I'll never make the Everstone." Yeah. But then she receives a mysterious
inside of
gift.
her ship, a portal thing opens, a mysterious gift comes dropping down in a little gift box, and in it is like a card or whatever. Like, there's this text that's like, never
Never give
lose
up.
hope, devoted admirer, or something like that, and it's kind of device that when she touches it, it covers her in a suit of armor, which I'm pretty confident that was sent by Lex Luthor.
That's who I'm thinking sent it to,
Yeah.
honestly. But it was a watch, but she put it
Yeah.
on, and it suddenly coated her with special armor. And so it'll be interesting to see what she does with this armor in the upcoming episodes. But that's it in a nutshell for Supergirl. Like I said, we're rushing through, guys.
Yeah.
We're going to do spoilers
Yeah.
and stuff, but we're going to go real quick because we want to get out of here for the week. Next is Stargirl. And Stargirl was an interesting episode as well because, of course, when we last left our intrepid Stargirlians, the JSA, specifically, Courtney was pissed at Pat and her mother for hiding the fact that the JSA had killed Eclipso's host all those years ago in order to send Eclipso back into the diamond. They had committed murder. And they think they didn't think it was right for Pat to hide that from them because they could have used that to show Yolanda that she wasn't the first JSA member to have to kill and make her feel a little bit better about herself. But two, she couldn't believe that they had ever condoned murder, even though in actuality Pat himself had never condoned murder, but he was outvoted. And so they start with an argument. Then the Shade does show up, but he's hurt, and he's supposed to be immortal, but he's hurt, and they're not quite sure how to figure that out. But he does tell them that if they could put the stone back together, the black diamond, that would allow Eclipso to be imprisoned again as long as none of them touched the diamond. And it took the power of light to put the stone back together. Well, they tried to use the cosmic staff, to put the stone back together, but she just didn't have enough juice. So then they figure out, what we're going to need is to find Jennifer, the Green Lantern. And so Courtney and Pat go to find Jennifer based on a couple of news articles that Pat had seen in the paper about green fire. And they find Jennifer, and she puts the stone back together. Well, the first thing that happens once the stone gets put back together is Shade gets all his powers back and heals himself because he lied. It wasn't going to do anything for Eclipso necessarily. It was going to reconnect their world to the Shade realm, which of course is where Shade gets all his power, which allows Shade to heal himself. So he's back to normal. Because, remember, Shade is not a good guy, but he's also, he's not a bad guy, but he's also not a good guy. He's a little bit in between, and he's a little more of a self-serving guy.
We also learned a little bit more of his story because with Shade close by, what's the girl with the goggles?
Beth, with Dr. McNider's goggles. Beth.
Yeah. She talks to Dr. McNider like the connection is stronger to the Shadow World because of Shade being nearby. And so she's able to talk with him better. And he tells her the story of Shade. So we learned that Shade in the 1800s was a con man who...
And thief. Con man and gentleman thief.
He had a fake copy of the Black Diamond in the 1800s that he was selling to some occultists who wanted to, bring Eclipso to the real world or bring some kind of a demon to the real world. And they botched it. And they betrayed Shade. And instead of paying him, they abducted him and used him as their ritual sacrifice. But they botched it, and instead of
because it wasn't a real
summoning
diamond?
Eclipso or whatever, they summoned they opened a connection or whatever to the Shadow, and this Shadow entity or whatever came into the world
and merged with
Shade. It connected to Shade as a host, and merged with him, and that was the source of his powers, and he's been not aged since then.
And we've got
And we get a
not got
little
all
bit
the
of story of him like losing his sister to the age of time and blah blah blah. But it was interesting because Dark Knight was like, no, he's not a bad guy. Yeah, I mean, he kind of played bad with the JSA for a while, but he didn't kill me. He didn't trap me here. He saved my life.
Yeah. He also,
You know, he,
one of the other
you
things
know,
that Dr. McNider did this episode is he unlocked the Eclipso files for Beth, and we have no idea what all ramifications that's going to have. But he had the goggles unlock all the files they had on Eclipso, and there was reams of information that Beth needed to read. And so she just started to read on that.
Lots of it.
But she had discovered,
they're just popping up so quick.
Just prior to them putting the Black Diamond back together, Beth found out the secret and was about to say, "Oh no," and it happened. You know, timing's everything.
Yeah.
And
she's like, we have to stop Courtney and Pat from assembling the diamond. It won't trap Eclipso. It'll heal Shade. And the only thing it does to Eclipso is it will summon him to where the diamond is. And so while Shade is healed, he apologizes to Barbara for lying to her before he disappears. And Eclipso shows up
and basically
in the
sucks
JSA
Courtney into the Shade
main
realm.
JSA headquarters where Pat, he sends Courtney to the Shadow Realms before he disappears again. He knocks out Green Lantern. He sends
Courtney
Stargirl to the Shadow Realm without her cosmic rod. Courtney, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Pat is left there. He's trying to keep her from getting sucked in, but can't hold her arms. He can't pull her out as she gets sucked in. And he's stuck there, on his knees in shock that he just lost Courtney.
Yeah, and that's where we end it. We also see Mike.
Holy crap.
We also see Mike. He goes to the garage to work on Stripe.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to get them some backup. But one of the things that he notices while he's out is an entire house turned into a gingerbread candy house. Which to him immediately makes it
while he's working on Stripe, he hears on the radio a story about pink lightning.
Right.
And so he goes to the source of the pink lightning and finds a gingerbread house or something, a house that's been turned
he immediately
candy.
thinks it's
and
the
he's
Thunderbolt.
Like, this has to be Thunderbolt.
So we're going to probably see in the next episode, we're building towards Dr. McNider possibly coming back. Maybe it could be the time when Kevin McHale comes in and actually shows up as Starman. We got Thunderbolt coming in again. We've got the return of Green Lantern. We've got Courtney lost in the Shadow Realm with Dr. McNider. We've got Eclipso coming into his full power. We've got Shade restored to his full power. We are building towards an epic culmination. And I don't know how many episodes are supposed to be in this season. I think it's only supposed to be like a 13-season episode or something. And this is episode 10. So we're getting really close to the end. In fact, I could look. How many season 2?
Yeah, let's see here.
Stargirl. Season 2. 13 consecutive episodes. Yeah, so we've only got 3 more episodes. Now, we know from previous things that we're probably not going to see any more of Wesley Shipp this season. But he's opened up to come in future seasons.
Yeah.
We've probably done with new JSA members for now. The closest we've got for new members that haven't fully been introduced that might come in is Thunderbolt, because the other kid Thunderbolt, not Mike, is Thunderbolt. And
Yeah.
whatever variation on Stripes that Mike ends up being. If he ends up just being another pilot for the Stripe robot, or if he ends up making his own version. But I don't think we've got time for him to make his own version, so I think he's just going to end up being an alternate pilot to Stripe, as well as one of Stripe's mechanics. That's what I feel like is going to be Mike's main role. Of course, we can all be wrong. Me and Philip will be the first ones to tell you we've been mistaken before. But Stargirl is getting really intense. We're really looking forward to seeing what happens with there. Supergirl is getting intense, and this is the last season of Supergirl. And the only thing we know for sure is they've already leaked out on the internet that Lex Luthor does have a part to play in the series finale. And that's one of the reasons I think me and Philip both think that armor was sent by Lex. Because among other things...
even without that knowledge, I'm just looking at it like, that looks like a portal that Lex would use with his little watch things that he portaled around all the time in.
Not only that,
and
but Lex
that suit of armor is very Lex Luthor styled, you know?
Yeah, plus he got some insider information on things because he read that book of the Anti-Monitors. The Monitor and Anti-Monitors book. So there's some things in that book that he hasn't revealed all the information he's gotten from that. Which allows him to go past our prime Earth sciences. So that might be one of the few things that might actually let Lex touch on the magical world of the fifth dimension, which is Nixley's and Mr. Mixopiddle's realm. So, and I have a feeling that Supergirl is probably also only going to be like 13 to 15 episodes. I anticipate it's going to be something similar. But it is the absolute end of Supergirl as a series. I mean, that doesn't mean Melissa Benoit won't come in as a guest on like a Super Friends spin-off series or something. But overall, we've got a lot to anticipate in the next 3 to 5 weeks as those conclude. And the openings to first Legends of Tomorrow and Batwoman come out, which is tonight. So we'll watch them sometime after tomorrow when they come to the streaming service. And then mid-November, we get the 5-episode Flash starting. We get the first of the 5 episodes of The Flash, which is not technically a crossover event, but it is a series event. I think part of the reason it's not considered a crossover event is because the series that it is technically would be crossovering with have all ended. You know, because it's coming from Green Lantern and Black Lightning and those shows. So, not to mention bringing back some high-profile people from Flash's past and or future, because with Flash you deal with kind of both. So we've got a lot going on with the CW or Berlantiverse. We've only got a touch of Stargirl in the overall Berlantiverse this season with Wesley Shipp showing up. But we do have basically the promise that he's going to be more involved and there's going to be more crossover next season. So when Stargirl comes back for season 3, which it has been confirmed to have been renewed for, we've got a lot to look forward to there. And then once they finish rolling Stargirl into the main Berlantiverse, then we can eventually maybe, not definitely, but maybe expect some crossover with Titans and Doom Patrol. Not to mention any other spin-offs, because I really think they need to have a Super Friends spin-off. I really seriously.
I think we only have 2 episodes. I think we only have 2 episodes of Supergirl left.
You think there's only like
Oh.
10 or 11? Or
2 episodes left. We've had, I mean, Hope for Tomorrow apparently was episode 15 of the season.
Oh, that's right. Because,
And from what I'm looking at, it looks like it's a 17 episode season.
Yeah.
Based
So we
on
may
the
only have
information
2.
I found.
Maybe, yeah. So we have only 2 to 3 more episodes at most of Supergirl, and then we're done with Supergirl mainstay. Like I said, that doesn't mean we're completely done with Supergirl. You know, because Supergirl can still cross over with her cousin Kal-El, and with Superman and Lois, and she can still cross over with the if they do a Super Friends spinoff, and she can always visit Flash, and who knows, she might even end up visiting Stargirl in the future somewhere. So we have a lot to possibly look forward to. The newest episodes of Legend of Tomorrow will also let us meet the new role for Constantine's actor. He will no longer be Constantine.
Rory won't be Rory will no longer be a regular on the show.
Yeah, and that's kind of sad because I like Rory.
That'll be weird.
It'll be extremely weird because he's one of the last mainstays of the original crew. Basically, all we're going to have is Sarah of the original crew.
Sarah's the only member of the original crew that's still around.
And the Wave Rider itself, and that's it. So Gideon and the Wave Rider and Sarah.
They did say they plan on having Rory appear every once in a while as like a guest character in future episodes. But he's no longer a main character. No longer.
He's no longer a series regular.
Yeah, series regular.
Kind of like how Vibe is no longer a regular on Flash, but he still guests every once in a while.
I mean, so far, I think he's guested more episodes than he was missing from after he left.
Right?
So
he wasn't gone very long before he became a regular again.
He's like, deuces, I'm out. And then like 3 weeks later, how's it going, gang? I understand that you couldn't handle things without me, so I'm back for the rest of the season.
He was out and he's like, he's back. He's like, you thought I was gone, huh? Psych! No. Fooled you! No. So anyway, we're going to close it here because it's already 10:35. We don't have much to talk about else than that. I mean, we really didn't have much more to talk about Venom this week anyway, and we've already gone over. We don't have Angel waiting in the wings to join us to talk more about Venom this week anyway. We've got Eternals coming out soon. Dune coming out soon.
Yeah, I'm probably skipping Dune. I don't think I'm going to watch Dune. I haven't seen anything that interests me about it.
I don't like the book series, and I haven't liked either of the 2 adaptations, but I am going to give it a try yet again.
Yeah.
Just to see. Maybe they'll have some good CG effects, and I like that. Because some of the previews have looked okay. And the cast they got's pretty epic. But I know it's coming to HBO Max, so at least I don't have to pay for it.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
If it comes to HBO Max, then I might give it a watch.
Dune was supposed to be on the HBO Max.
I definitely wasn't going to go to the movies for it.
Yeah, it's supposed to be on the HBO Max ticket. So.
Okay.
Because if it comes to theaters, I'm not going to the theater.
I didn't remember it being a Warner Brothers property.
I had heard it was going to HBO Max, so.
It might be. I haven't paid any attention to it, so I don't know.
It's not a high priority thing.
I'll take your word for it.
It's not a high priority for me either.
Yeah.
Spider-Man No Way Home is coming out soon.
December.
Yep, we've got
Matrix 4.
Matrix
in
4 comes
December.
out in December.
Mm-hmm.
Ghostbusters Afterlife is coming out late November. So we've still got a lot of great movies before the end of the year. And then right at the beginning of the year, the first quarter at the beginning of the year, we've got Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah.
I think the Into the Spider-Verse 2 is supposed to be coming out sometime around then. Of course, we've got some new Marvel series coming out next month. I think Hawkeye comes out next month. So then we'll have something else to talk about there at least. But we will catch you here next week, same bat time, same bat channel, here on the GamerSeuss Twitch channel with myself, my co-host of Endurance, Lurch, and I don't think we'll have Greg next week because he'll probably still be in St. Louis for the wedding, or Kansas City, or wherever it is there for the wedding. So, in fact, I know he'll be there because otherwise he would be at Holdfast. So, it'll just be me and Lurch next week. So expect a lot of stuff from us and not as much stuff that Greg would present anyway. And my cat's back again. And you just like the limelight, Kitty. You just want to show off. But the
one here is a little bit upset because his mama's
been away.
Squirrel is out of town for the week. Yeah,
right.
And so
pouty.
He's pouty, and he's been clingy. He's been like within eyesight of me pretty much ever since she left.
Say hi, Vriska. Hi.
So he finally got off the back of the chair. I probably rocked a little too much there at the end. And
Vriska jumps on the back of the chair.
But he's up there for what, an hour?
Only to get to my shoulders, because Vriska likes to pretend he's a parrot.
Yeah.
Or a mink stole. Anyway, we'll catch you here. You can also catch us, especially after the beginning of the year when we start doing a little bit more broadcasting again, on our other shows. I'm, of course, always on this channel, the GamerSeuss channel, which is my channel. You can catch Lurch and Angel, who visited with us last week, on Left Claw Studios. They'll be starting to do more stuff after the beginning
go to our YouTube page. We got a bunch of stuff on YouTube.
Bunch of stuff on YouTube
for Left Claw Studios on there.
And like I said at the beginning of the show, I will eventually get last week's and this week's episodes onto the YouTube list. But right now there's a trouble with interlacing between YouTube and Twitch.
Yeah.
Because of some
as part of the fix, because of their data breach, their hack, all stream keys have been reset.
Well, I know,
so
and I reset my stream keys.
That might have something to do with your trouble.
And I already did that, but they're also not wanting to reconnect the two. When you go into your connections and try to connect YouTube, it keeps giving you back an error.
Okay. I mean, I don't blame YouTube or Twitch for holding off on that for a little bit while they redo everything. So, anyway, we'll see you later.
See everybody later. Have a good time. May all your rolls be 20. And if you do fumble, may it be epic. Good night.